Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson of the Thriving in Motherhood podcast, and today I'm going to give you a deep dive walkthrough of everything that we're doing in our homeschool as far as like curriculum goes. This is the thing, if I were to invite you over to my house and you would say, hey, what are you doing for homeschool? And you really wanted to know, I will walk you through it just as if you were here with me. So we'll go ahead and dive in to that. I've got a huge stack right here off screen to show and talk through everything here with you. As you are trying to decide what you want motherhood to look like for you, whether it includes homeschool or public school, maybe you want to be the best PTA mom out there, I think all options are fantastic. But what it really comes down to is getting clear for you about what matters to you. And the best way to do that is by taking the 5-day Create Your Vision Challenge. It's a mini course. You can get it at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/vision. And I will walk you through the entire process of figuring out what matters most to you. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, as far as homeschooling goes, we hit under the bubble of classical Charlotte Mason education. If you're familiar with like the 6 homeschool philosophies, we kind of have meshed the two together. But I also have heavily researched and incorporated ideas from Waldorf education and Montessori, especially for my younger kids like 6, 7 under. I really try and bring those elements into our home of having lots of time for the kids to play, reading lots of good stories to them, like fairy tales, letting them do a lot of things on their own. Like even today, my 2-year-old made herself a pizza roll-up entirely by herself using the microwave and getting everything out of the fridge, and we're still working on cleaning up. But anyway, I do try and have very independent children. So that is a big part of like the curriculum for my younger kids, is just doing life with me, cooking the meals, making, cleaning up the house with me, doing laundry, just some of those day-to-day things, and being very much a part of the household and what's going on. But as far as what we do, so the very first thing that I've got here is what I like to do with my kids when they are little and not reading, pre-reading. They are little cards that my mom made when I was little. So first she has the Montessori Letters where you can trace like the big A and the little a. She cut them out of sandpaper, and then the kids can use their finger to feel the letters. They're about, 2 or 3 inches across. And then each letter has a story, and these are so brilliant because they teach the kids the letter sounds. And I'm using them not for pre-reading, but I've got a child that's working on speech right now. And so we do these letter stories to help them work on their letters. Like there's a little boy named Andy, and then his sister Anne, and then as it goes on they get apples and they are cutting down trees with axes, and then they hear this sound and they discover it's the ants making the sound. But as you go, you have the kids say and it goes along like that. And so every letter has a way to practice that or ba 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 ba. They're doing different things. They're bouncing animals into a ball or into a bag, and they go ba ba ba. Okay, so that is what I use for my younger kids, and it translates really, really well to reading when it's time. But really, it's just something fun to do where we're not like sitting down and doing a worksheet. They're just hearing stories. They like the stories, and it attaches sounds to the letters. So really low key. I'm not pushing pre-reading at all. I don't really teach my kids reading until they're closer to 6, unless they're asking for it. So my oldest didn't ask too much for it. My other kids have, and so they're just all different. They have different interests. And so for reading, what I do is I do all about reading with my kids. I have gone through all 4 levels with my oldest, and then my other kids are in different stages of levels 1 through 4. It's phenomenal. I do everything by the book. As we got to level 4, I just had the readers. My oldest was reading well enough that she just used the readers. We didn't actually go through the course materials, and we were very fast on the course, like the learning stuff on the 3rd, level 3. Like she was really reading well by level 3. And so that was just a breeze, more of just like checking it off. But 1 and 2, it's very, very helpful to do the entire program. And then depending on your kids, moving on with it. It's one of the more expensive reading programs I think out there, but it's the most thorough. Like there's nothing left to chance. You don't have to guess from one lesson to the other what rule you're teaching or how to teach it. And it's interactive as far as like there's like games. If you've got kids that need more help, there's games and activities on every lesson. I found that we skipped a lot of those as my kids got older, but I just loved how the stories were interesting, and there's lots of reader books out there where it's like the words are way above their heads, and so that's discouraging, but this is not. This is laid out very much for you're reading a story, you're at a level that you can read at. We're practicing certain rules or skills, but the stories are interesting. So my kids love it. I love it. They love it. It's a huge win. For math, we have done Right Start Math from the beginning, and I am so glad. I follow lots of moms that have homeschooled for a long time, and a lot of them tried a lot of other things and ended up at Right Start Math. Seasoned moms with many, many children, and so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to start where they end, and we'll just jump right into Right Start. Now, it took me a while to kind of get my feet wet with how the program worked, but it finally clicked maybe a year ago that within every lesson, they teach this principle, and then there's a game. And I always felt like the games are getting in the way because you get all of these manipulatives and parts that go with this. And it was so overwhelming because I have all of these kids and little kids. And so if I'm like trying to play a game with my other kid, the other ones are interrupting, and it was very frustrating. And so I just didn't get it, but it clicked with me recently that is you're doing a game instead of a worksheet. So where your kid would normally sit down and have to fill out a worksheet, instead you're sitting down and you're practicing these games. And it's very accessible. And once I understood that that's why their games are there, was they were worksheet practice, it's changed everything for me and has really helped my kids get excited about math and about understanding how things work. And that's the other thing, is that I feel like you get such a thorough understanding of how things work. I've learned so many tricks. My math skills have improved tenfold since starting Right Start Math with my kids, because I understand how the numbers work so much better than I ever did before. And so the way that we've solved the game problem is that I do math and reading one-on-one with every child. I start with my youngest two. We read one of those stories and we play a game of our own. Spot It. They love Spot It. They love Go Fish. We love Blitz or Blink. It's called Blink. They love Candyland and Trouble and Chutes and Ladder. We pretty much just like play through our game collection of every game we've ever had. And they love that. And they read a story with me. And then I move on to my next child and we do math and reading together. The Right Start Math, all about reading. And then I move on to my next child. We do Right Start Math, all about reading. So that is how I go through those subjects. We do them one-on-one in their bedrooms. I keep the materials upstairs in our linen closet, and it's very smooth. The other thing I love about Right Start Math is this abacus. This abacus, which helps them really understand, visualize numbers, and they can do very high-level calculations very quickly using the abacus. Now, the next thing that I've done for many years is Story of the World. And this is something that comes from Susan Wise Bauer, who wrote The Well-Trained Mind. She teaches how to have a classical education. And so I've got the books 1 to 3, and I've read this book to my kids all the way through. We would just read them like a little bit at lunch or breakfast, depending on the season of life we've been in. And then it comes with an activity book. And I have bought the activity books because with every single chapter, they share recommended other books. So other storybooks or novels or picture books that happen during this time. It comes with maps, and we have gone through season where we've done maps. It comes with activities. It comes with coloring pages. I don't do those things, to be honest. I just look at the review questions that we'll use as like a discussion point, and look at the additional history reading and literature suggestions that go along with Story of the World. And so we've done that. And then we started using classical conversations to memorize the timeline and some of the historical things, like songs that go along with it, like the 7 Wonders of the Ancient World. And so you can just get an app on your device, or I bought the CDs for the years. They're on sale right now because I think they're not selling CDs anymore. But we've done that, and we memorize those at lunch. And so what's really fun is I've read, like, let's say Story of the World with the ancient world. And then we've memorized this timeline song and a lot of these other little songs that go along with the timeline song. And then I get the Story of the World from the library audio CDs, and we listen now to the story. And it is so fun because my kids are picking up on so many things because they've got all of these connections now from the timeline song that they know, from reading it previously, from all of the literature that we've read and the historical readings that we've read. And so they have just like pieced together. So I feel like we're really understanding ancient history. I'm excited to do it again, like kind of follow that pattern with all the other books in the series. Okay, something that we've started doing in January. So that's basically what we've been doing for a long time, those core things. But as my oldest is getting older and needs a little bit more challenging, I feel like we need more in our days. And to go back to what we did when my kids were little, Charlotte Mason has 20 subjects. So we used to do picture study and artist study and poetry and reading tons of books. And I wanted to get back to that, but at a higher level, at her level, as well as what I did for my younger kids. So for that, we started doing writing with ease. This is something that I got out of the Well-Trained Mind, because what we're going for, after reading the Well-Trained Mind, I realized what I'm really going for is by 4th grade, as far as skill work goes, to have my kids being able to read, write, know their math facts in multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, and so that's, and have some basic grammar understanding. So with that in mind, I've got the level 1 writing with ease. I've got some children that struggle with writing and some that do better with it. And so my youngest kids copy sentences out of here. My oldest, what she'll do is she'll narrate things to me. She'll narrate, meaning tell back to me. And all the kids tell it back to me. But for her, what she does is she tell back something from history, tell back something from one of the novels that we've read, like Prince and the Pauper. Or she'll tell back something from a book that she read, like Anne of Green Gables, and I will write it down on a ginormous whiteboard, and then she will copy from that whiteboard onto her binders, which I'll show you in a little bit, and she copies that out. So that practices her writing, that practices her spelling, that practices her handwriting, and we kind of incorporate it all into one thing in a way that's taking this knowledge, things that she's reading, and putting it into something very practical. So I've got these 2 binders for every child. And they have a literature and writing binder, and then they have a history and science binder. So these 2 binders collect everything that they do as far as narrating goes. So what this means is that when a child reads something to me, or when I read something to them, they then tell it back to me. And that's how I know that they understand it. And that's also how they make it their own. They make it something that's meaningful and personal to them. And so we needed a place to organize all of these narrations, because while a lot of them are oral, as my children get older, they start have more things written down, or I will write them down and put it in there for them. And so for history and science, they have a tab for ancient history, medieval history, late Renaissance, modern, and then they've got a spot for science and nature journaling. So anytime we do or read anything, whether it's through Story of the World or another book that we're reading, or a poet that we're studying, or an artist that we're studying, or a composer that we're studying, all of these people and experiences and ideas go into their corresponding tab. And then for the literature, we have my book, so they can keep a record of the books that they've read. We have memory work, so everything that they've memorized, we memorize scriptures and we memorize poetry, can go behind there. And we also memorize like songs or speeches. They can write it down and put it in there. And then we also have a writing tab, so anything that they write on their own, or just straight practice of copy work, which we do in that writing with ease book. Any straight copy work practice goes behind that tab. And they also have cursive hand worksheets in this as well, as we're working on cursive. And so the idea is that now we have one place where they can take all of their knowledge, all of the things they're learning, all the things they're studying, and consolidate it into these places that makes it really fun to review, and also makes it possible for them to make more connections and deepen their understanding of everything that they're seeing. Now, we also have first language lessons. So this is grammar, and I got the first, just volume 1, to do with my kids as an entire family. And what is so fun about this is, first of all my kids can do it. So it's written for the younger kids, level 1. So we're going through it fast. There's like 100 lessons. So it should last you a year. And we've done it in a few months. Like it's March, April. So like 3 months, 4 months. So half the time. And we've memorized all the poems together. And there's songs, like a pronoun song, and that the kids love singing. And then we practice these different skills of like what's a noun and what's a verb, and we just do the exercises together, and the kids have so much fun doing them all together. And we'll just continue to do grammar together, while understanding that I require less of my youngest and more of my oldest. And so it goes really well. That gets us through our skill work and our history, and basically what we do for gathering everything else. But now let me talk to you about how I've expanded elsewhere. I will say also, we got spelling of the word, or spelling power, which is really good. It's all these spelling words that you write based on use, like how often you use them, and they last a long time. It's like, this is it. You just need one book. But I'm finding that I'm having my kids use these skills that we learned in Spelling Power with their copy work and just using copy work as their spelling because I need to simplify. So what I need to do for everything else. So everything else, all of those things, right? All those subjects that I mentioned, we've got scriptures, history, biography, geography, natural history, literature, poetry, foreign language, nature study, timeline, recitation, geography, picture study, drawing, handicrafts, music, composer, folk song, hymn. That's a Charlotte Mason varied education. And in the past, I've just gone to the library, picked things from every topic, and we just went for it. But I needed something a little bit more concrete. And so what I did is I went to Ambleside Online, and I looked at it years ago when Emily was little, and I've used it as a resource, but they've updated their website sometime in the last 4 or 5 years, my oldest. And it's phenomenal. And it is so straightforward. And I love that thing so much. So what I've done and what I love about Ambleside so much is that first of all, they give you a schedule. So every year is broken up into 3 terms, which is 12 weeks each. And so week 1, it tells me very clearly what we need to read in every one of these books. And my favorite part is that all of these books, at least most of them, almost all of them are in the public domain. And so I can either pull them on my phone or what I've discovered recently and started doing is sending that to my Kindle. So I have a Kindle Paperwhite and all of these books, there's so many books, are just on here. And I was able to do it completely for free by going to the Gutenberg project and then sending the file to my Kindle because every Kindle has an email. You can also just send it if you have just a phone, you don't have an actual Kindle, you can send it to your app on your phone, get the Kindle app and send it there. And then it's really easy just to open it up. And most of these, at least at my kids' age right now, I'm reading to them. And then Emily, my oldest, who has finished the All About Reading, I have her read a lot of these books to me, with me. And so I'm sitting next to her and that's what she's using for her reading practice. And they're high level stuff. And so what's really fun is a good chunk of it, the friend side is what each individual child is doing. And right now I'm just reading most of these out loud. So we're doing a ton of reading. I probably read like an hour, 3 or 4 days a week with the kids. Just during, after breakfast, I read a little bit. During lunch, I read a little bit. 1 or 2 days a week, everyone's kind of slow. And so we'll just gather on the couch and read a little bit more. And then I have them narrate and write things out. So for example, for natural history, we're reading PreK right now. And the kids are learning about how a hermit crab goes from this tiny little PreK thing, like pencil dot sized creature, down to a hermit crab. But it's a story. It's phenomenal. I love it. And then they're drawing it out. Okay, so that's like what we're doing for this natural history component. But there's so many good books in here. And life is coming alive for me and the kids as we are diving into this very wide curriculum. And then the back is all together. It's family stuff. And so, and they've got it all on Ambleside Online as well. You just click on it, you get your songs, you get your poems, and it's so organized. It's fantastic for free. It's so good. I know there are so many other resources out there, and I've got my eyes on some other programs, but I needed something free, not just the curriculum, but also the books. And this has been around for a long time. I've actually met, when we lived in Indiana, the women that made this, their daughters are my age, that like pulled Ambleside Online together. The daughters are my age, and I've met them and talked with them, and they are wonderful women, wonderful ladies. Who really care about homeschooling their children. And so, anyway, it is a great resource that I've just tapped into and I am so excited about, especially because of that way to consolidate all my books. I love having books. I love the physical books, but this is a nice way to not only consolidate the physical stuff, but also I just am running around the house less every day. Like, which book do I need? And pulling them all out. And the Kindle holds your spot in all of these books, so I don't have to keep track of it. Anyway, the last thing that we're doing for geography is map work. And so I'm just keeping it pretty simple right now. We're printing out maps and I'm working with the kids as they fill in the different places like in America right now. And it's fun because we've driven around a huge portion of the United States. So they know a lot of the states just because we've driven through them, but we're strengthening that skill. And then there's a book about like how to draw maps, like how to draw the United States, how to draw every continent in America, all the different countries in America. And so we are working through that as well slowly, as helping them learn how to draw these maps. So that's it. That's what we're doing right now. It's really fun. It will continue to evolve for sure. I feel like the more weeks that I get into Ambleside, the more I'm understanding how the program works, which is allowing me to see where I can maybe take some shortcuts or how I can consolidate things even more or where I need to spread out. But I think the helpful thing is to recognize this is like a great week. And when we need to scale back, I make sure every kid does a math and every kid reads to me. And then they also practice their instruments. We have Hoffman Academy. So I have my daughter doing, all of my children do Hoffman Academy. That's piano lessons online. They are phenomenal. That could be its entirely own thing. But right now, Hoffman Academy for piano lessons. And then my daughter does violin, and my son will start doing cello in the fall is his dream. So that's kind of a real deep dive peek into what we do for our homeschool day. I talked about how to organize it a few weeks ago. You can check that out. And thank you so much for joining me. And I'm excited to talk with you again next week.